Dear colleague, welcome to this lecture on where to publish, scientific journals, impact factor and related stuff, which might be of value if you intend to publish a paper, making a PhD, and perhaps even planning a career in science. And this lecture will be included in the WSSFN course in the Basics of Science. There are about 40,000 peer-reviewed journals, of which one-third in medicine and life sciences, publishing about 3 million scientific papers each year, of which one-third are indexed on PubMed. Fortunately, you don't have to choose between all these 40,000 journals when you intend to publish a paper. Once you have reached that stage, you will probably be quite familiar with the most well-known journals within your specific field, and you will choose one that is suitable for the topic of your paper. In general, it is a good idea to go with the crowd and to submit your manuscript to the same journals as your colleagues who are performing similar research are submitting to and reading. If you are writing about neurosurgery, then you will most often choose a journal more or less dedicated to neurosurgery, and you might, depending on your topic, choose an even more specialized journal, such as a Journal of Neurosurgery Spine or Stereotactic and Functional Neurosurgery. Thus, select a journal based on how well your topic suits the journal and its readers. However, often you are left with several suitable options which you have to choose from, and one important factor in this equation might be the impact factor. The impact factor is a measurement of the impact of the journal and hence on its prestige. It is calculated by dividing the total number of citations during a certain year of papers published the 2 preceding years with the number of papers published during those 2 preceding years. If papers from 2023 and 24 were cited 200 times in 2025 and 100 papers were published in 23 and 24, then the impact factor is 200 divided with 100. That is an impact factor of 2. The impact factor is not a measurement on the quality of individual papers published in that journal. However, journals with a high impact will have more submissions and a higher rate of rejections. Thus, they are more competitive, and it is more difficult to get your paper published in them, while it is also more prestigious. Unfortunately, it is sometimes used as a proxy regarding the quality of individual papers and of academic success in evaluations for positions, grants, and such. With that said, I believe that many young colleagues are focusing too much on the impact factor. In the end, the most important thing is that your paper gets published and read. And if you aim too high, it will result in rejection, delay, and waste of valuable time which you could have spent on your next paper. Thus, make a realistic evaluation of the merits of your paper before submitting it to a high-impact journal. A highly prestigious journal like the New England Journal of Medicine has a very high impact, around 79. This is not only a reflection on the quality of this journal, but also of how wide a field it is covering, thus how many potential writers and readers it will attract, and more specialized journals will typically have a lower impact. For neurosurgery, the average impact factor is roughly around 2 to 3, and here you see some examples. And remember that the impact factor will vary from year to year. The official journal impact factor is calculated and published in Clairvet's journal Citation Reports, which is probably accessible through Web of Science via your institution. However, it is easier to visit the journal's webpage, Google it, or just ask ChatGPT. I understand if some of you will find the citation frequency of 2 for each paper during the last 2 years surprisingly low for being an average. But remember that a paper will receive in mean around 10 citations, but that is during its whole lifetime. Further, it is of interest to note that the median is much lower, around 3, and that many papers, perhaps around 25%, are never cited at all. About half the papers published today are open access, meaning that the authors have paid the journal for the paper to be freely available to anyone. Open access papers will be cited somewhat more often, 20 to 35%, than paywall papers. This is partly but not only due to the open access, but also to the fact that authors of an excellent paper are more likely to pay for open access than authors of a more modest paper. If you can afford it, then open access is a good idea. If not, then it will not matter much. There are many predatory journals that should be avoided. These will have little interest in science, aiming at making money from accepting anything for publication for an open or hidden publication fee. There are of course new serious journals which have not yet received an official impact factor or not yet been indexed on PubMed. But in general, avoid any journal that you have never heard of. Avoid journals begging you to publish, and avoid journals in medicine and life sciences that are not indexed on PubMed. Further, avoid publishing in journals without an impact factor. But be aware that the predatory journals will often try to fool you by using fake or misleading impact factors. Publishing in a predatory journal will be easy, and it will enlarge the publication list in your CV. But such publications will never be taken seriously in any formal evaluation of your merits, and it will decrease your standing in the scientific community. And with that, I end this lecture, and please remember that you will find an additional 250 lectures at the Stereotactic Academy at stereotactic.org, including lectures on how to review a scientific paper, how to calculate your age index, the editor's view, and of course a number of lectures on how to write a scientific paper, and much more. Thank you for your attention.